Here we are at Chapter 2, the Castle of the Dragon. We're returning to the Hayabusa village once again. Places that we're going to in here is, very consistent with what we saw in Ninja Gaiden 1. Because, Itagaki was smart to realize that there should be some internal consistency even in an action game like this.
It's nice, so it's like when they rebuilt it, it looks the same. Oh no, it's still on fire after a year.
Yeah, well, the fire was recent. It'd be amazing if it kept burning oxygen and shit all this time.
It's like Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Why am I not surprised?
Or California as of right now.
Yeah, true.
How the vaunted dragon ninja bloodline has withered, Joe Hayabusa. Your embrace of the evil way has consumed you. Evil. The ninja way knows neither good nor evil. Corruption of the soul is a fate that befalls the weak. Enough talk. The ties that bind our clans are severed tonight. Bloodstains in my blade. Fool.
That is a wonderfully cheesy exchange of dialogue that feels like it's on par with Symphony of the Night. Like Richter and Dracula at the beginning.
If it was not for the subtitles, I was seriously expecting him to follow enough talk with "have at you."
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking the first time. That Notebook's just the best, because while the other ones thus far have been, like, the writers, like, talking about how much of a failure they are, he's more like, oh man, I'm so excited to try the Flying Swallow. I'm gonna keep practicing it. Oh. I'm dead.
Huh. Well.
I love the little notes and journals that you pick up in this game. Because you remember, like in the first one, there was like a small subplot kind of thread going on where you were picking up like journals from Fallen Black Spider Ninja about like how they were trying to steal back the Dark Dragon Blade. But here it's it's not quite as focused as that, but there's like room for like a lot more kind of sort of morbid humor and stuff going on, considering that the way of being a ninja is filled with death. But that you're still able to see that some of these dead note and journal writers like have, at least some personality and humor to them.
It's always good when they can write something like that and not really take themselves too seriously.
It really is. And like the good thing about that is that it's not being forced front and center into like the main plot itself, Like no cutscene in this game is ever going to like take that sort of tone. Like those journals are clearly there for the people that have enough of an interest in the world itself without caring that much about like the quality of any particular story.
Yeah, it's like everything gets referenced to this, so sure, why not? It's kind of like Dark Souls, where like the extra story bits are there if you want to go for them, but if you don't, you can ignore them, and your experience isn't going to suffer for it. Right?
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to. I was stuck holding my breath there to try to not let out that groan mid-sentence. Yeah.
That works perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Have a bunch of dead ninjas.
No, it's not even my birthday.
What's the story behind them? Ryu killed them. That's what. The end.
This is exactly the same.
Yeah, this was like we just passed through the area where we fought Masakado and like the samurai horsemen. But we're not going to be fighting those horsemen again. We're going to be fighting... Well, we are going to be fighting an animal, but it's not a horse.
Ninja seals.
It's dogs! Ninja dogs! Not only are they a rank of shame, or even an easy difficulty, They are not literal ninja dogs, and they'll fuck you up harder than you ever thought possible.
Oh my god. This is...
You thought Shinobi on the PS2 was already bad enough with these fuckers? Guess what? Itagaki looked at that game and thought, man, Sega had the right idea with this bullshit.
They're spitting incendiary shurikens. They've got them on their legs.
Yeah, wielding swords in their mouths. And you know what's even better? All these years later, Team Ninja revisited the Ninja Dog concept and put them in the second DLC for Neo. So you too can fight ninja dogs as a weeaboo samurai.
Oh, this is just perfection.
It's assholishness of the highest quality and taste. But now we're moving on from the dogs to, well, to the water.
Dogs like water.
Cats not so much. But you still got the same kind of swimming controls, obviously. And you can even attack underwater, but it's very limited.
Yeah.
But that's not what's most important. We can water run. And it is basically a refined and perfected version of what was introduced in Sigma. You get this like lengthy stride, that, but it's only as long as you continue to tap the A button rhythmically. Not rapidly, but like at a steady pace. It's very generous. But you can like cut sharp corners with the L trigger, and in the case of the Dragon Sword, you can just press Y during a water run and you'll go straight into a flying swallow. Which is a great way of covering the distance in that case, which I feel that particular platform with the archers was set up with the intent of letting you try out that move. Flying Swallow in general, like, that move I'd say came quite a long way from where it started as in Ninja Gaiden Vanilla, where it was an incredibly powerful move that most enemies and even bosses weren't actually equipped well to deal with. You know, and it was in Black where they had like added things to kind of to push back some of that behavior, even going as far as to like have enemies that directly countered it. But here, you know, you don't get instances like that where you had an enemy where they have a designated flying swallow counter, but instead, you know, the power is reduced in exchange for way more utility in different scenarios. Like, you could obviously use it to start an encounter and catch everyone off guard, or you could use it to get away from enemies. You can, like, do it, you know, from coming out of a water run. And in the case of, and exclusive to the Dragon Sword in particular, you can chain multiple Flying Swallows together as you level up your sword. And you don't have to do all 2 or 3 in quick succession. You could just stop after the first one and like do a shuriken cancel or something of that nature. It's way more fleshed out. It is literally perfected.
I'm never gonna get sick of that flaming wheel.
It's really powerful, especially against living things.
Foreshadowing?
Well, I mean, we are killing living things already. I mean, we're not gonna get fucking acid grenades or like whatever the shit that Barry gave you.
Oh. Well, yeah. Oh, wow. Part of that guy's on the wall.
Yeah. New weapon time. We got bona fide fucking ninja claws now. Though we're not going to use them yet because we actually have enough essence to upgrade them at the next Muramasa shop. So we're going to be able to spend a bit more time with the Lunar until then. I, on the other hand, am only the master of getting kicked in the face. That's a damn good line. Guy should have owned up to it like that dude in Kung Pao, who just like takes every factual loss against him as an actual victory.
I'll use my nuts to your fist technique.
Yes. 10 is technically bigger than 1, making me the victor. Kung Pao Enter the Fist is the greatest stupid movie of all time. I am thoroughly convinced. Like people might point to stuff such as like The Room, you know, as like an amazing, so bad it's amazing kind of film. But that one, like, its terribleness is largely unintentional. Kung Pao masters the art of making an intentionally bad piece of shit that is amazingly entertaining. Like, normally any sort of, like, irony or intention in creating something bad always goes over as, like, well, why didn't you just do it good in the first place? But instead, it's like, nah, we're going to take this bad, obscure-ass fucking kung fu movie and, like, lazily, like, input our own, like, new footage in post and do very obviously bad dubbing. And it works! It's still amazing.
For the most part, it still holds up, too. Well, I thought it still holds up.
Music to my ears, the sound of a ninja burning to death. I'm still amazed that they gave that, like, a specific death animation. Because the Art of the Inferno in the first game, like, it put a fire effect on enemies, but it did not change, like, their reactions, you know? Like,
yeah.
if the Art of the Inferno hit them in Ninja Gaiden 1, it would just explode and send them flying back.
But in this one, they just wander around slightly warmer for a little while.
Pretty much. This part of the fight is always kind of silly just because you've weeded out so much of the enemies at this point that, like, they only end up sending one at a time. Like, the last ones left behind are just huge cowards and just picking straws to decide who goes next.
And the flames of murder have lit the candles.
Yes, the gods are pleased.
They gave you a rod.
Yeah. The rod will be especially useful once we get to Chapter 3, because that is the item that will give us access to the Tests of Valor, which, if you remember the Fiend challenges from Ninja Gaiden 1, which I demonstrated heavily in Sigma with custom music and everything, is basically going to be the same thing. There's 9 of them in total, one for each chapter following after this one.
Okay.
And they're generally good to do regardless for the rewards they give. Even though, like, if you're new to the game, dealing with the amount of enemies it throws at you in those challenges is, you know, it's no easy picnic.
Will the custom music this time be the sounds of ninjas on fire?
No, it won't. It's actually something else. It's definitely not going to be more Dead or Alive music. I already expended the choice of tracks that I had picked out for that one. But I'm gonna make it a little interesting contest with that one.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm not going to tell you what the name of the soundtracks that I use are, but I will allow people in the thread to take guesses at what they might be. I will let you know that they're all by the same artist.
Should help narrow it down a bit. Something I've been noticing in this. Do you not have, like, sub-weapons anymore in 2?
As in the, like, projectile?
Like the shurikens, the shurikens, windmill shuriken, the bow.
We actually are going to get those projectile weapons.
Oh, okay. You don't start with them.
No.
Or rather,
the bow
okay.
is actually going to be made available to us just a little later in this chapter, even.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of keeping the tradition of the first game, getting the bow in the second chapter.
Getting excited over that bow. We just got, like, clawed hands and feet, but...
Oh, if you think...
Let me see that regular-ass bow.
Oh, like... And if you think you've been impressed by how absolutely souped up all, like, Ryu's normal stuff has been with the sword and the lunar, you'll like what upgrades the bow gets, because its particular... Like, projectile weapons in this game, outside of the shuriken, are they basically get the ability to do ultimate techniques.
Oh,
If you ever
wow.
thought that was
Okay.
possible, you can charge projectiles. It's fucking awesome.
All right.
But before we get that bow, we're gonna give the Falcon's talons their time to shine.
Also, I just noticed a minute ago that you actually do have the shurikens,
Yeah.
and I'm just blind. That looks...
Yeah, those are ninja claws on the hands and feet. But the thing about them that is particularly good is how they complement, like, the priorities of the Lunar Staff. Because, as you know, that weapon is very long-reaching with a bunch of swings and pokes, but Ryu's actual mobility in that is, like, basically, like, if you manage to even let an enemy, like, somehow, like, get past any of the lunar swings, Ryu is still pretty open. With the Falcon's talons, each attack sends him forward. It's very much a weapon designed for, like, hidden run tactics, and, like, just keeping yourself on the run while continuing to slice up a single enemy. Because that's another thing about it, is that its range of attack is significantly more narrow. Doesn't stop the cutting power, though, that's for sure.
No.
None of these weapons are, like, weaklings in regards to taking off a limb.
Which is good, because, I mean, if everything else was already specializing in dismemberment, it would kind of suck to get something that was just kind of like, hey, you can lightly tap them
Yeah,
with it.
especially with how how obliteration techniques are, like, a universal system. It would make no sense for having only a single weapon or two that's specialized in it. That particular move is, you know, highlighting what I'm talking about when it comes to this weapon's hit and run tactics. Like, forward X is just a series of forward barrages with plenty of invincibility frames.
Berserker Barrage!
Yep. This is basically the best Wolverine game you're ever going to get. Yes, better than the X-Men Origins Wolverine game. Even though that's not the highest quality of games, it did have its good moments.
You know, at first I thought they looked kind of goofy, but man, these claws are great.
Oh, you say they don't look goofy.
I mean, maybe they just look goofy when you're standing there, but once you turn them into a food processor...
Yeah. Well, it's really not made that apparent on level 2, but once you get to level 3, basically, like, for any weapon that's not the Dragon Sword, their appearances I can describe only as spiky, jagged, and gold.
Okay.
So the claws are only going to look more ridiculous, as will the lunar, as will the other weapons we pick up along the way. Because this game loves the idea of just over-the-top design, regardless of any sort of, like, subtlety or consistency.
I like over the top. It works perfectly in 3D action stuff. I mean, Devil May Cry is built on over the top. Wow, you just got some air.
Yeah, that's another standout feature about the Falcon's talent. Their Flying Swallow variant can be transitioned into an Izuna drop, which always gives you more height.
Wow.
This actually makes it, like, one of two weapons that I find extremely useful on Master Ninja if you're trying to push yourself through it for God knows what reason. The first one is the Lunar, because its 360 Essence technique is, like, this is obviously, like, a mistake on the developer's part, but it's more powerful than any of the Lunar's ultimate techniques. And the other is, as you saw, the Falcon's Talons, because its Flying Swallow, it's a Izuna drop, makes you incredibly safe.
Was the 360 one the one where you, like, push them up into the air and then just kind of stab them a bunch of times while they're up above your head?
Yeah, but that's the ultimate technique variant. The Essence technique version is just the multi-spin. It doesn't have the launcher into poke and Izuna drop.
Okay.
that one is, its damage scaling is incredibly broken because it's more powerful than it actually should be. It's a it's a design mistake, but it is ultimately a beneficial one if you are a glutton for punishment on Master Ninja. And I just fell off the roof for no good reason. So I have to dash, jump my way all the way back up. Although this does demonstrate something. There are certain areas that, like in the first game, enemies will respawn. And as you'd expect, when they respawn, they don't count towards your karma score when you kill them. So yeah, despite the linear nature, if you are desperate for it, you can farm essence. But it's still not advised.
Yeah, just not score.
Yep.
A ninja does it right the first time, or he doesn't do it at all.
That's correct. Now inside the hole. I do generally like how the AI for the archers are handled compared to their variants that just have swords, because while they do resort to melee when you get close, they are noticeably more evasive, which highlights the fact that they are more specialized in using projectiles than their swords. So here's our new bow, the Fiend's Bane bow.
Oh, I would have walked right past that.
Well, unfortunately you can walk past it because this switch requires you to use the bow.
Oh.
So yeah, you have to shoot it anyway. You know, typical game design. They don't want you skipping spots without like picking up any important weapons. Although, you technically could, I think, yeah, like in this game you actually can miss certain items and even weapons, but you can buy them later at the shop.
Oh.
But it's usually saved for like when you get to the next chapter after whatever that particular weapon was. So yeah, we got the staff, we got our bow, and we're gonna be running into a mini-boss now. Hey, you're alive. Resetsu has been demoted from boss to really tough enemy type. It's still kind of hilarious considering that the way Resetsu introduced himself at the end of Chapter 1 made it sound like it was his given name and not a rank.
I guess that kind of makes it less special, but yeah. Then again, if it's, I don't know, if I was in charge of this specific ninja clan, yeah, I'd probably make more than one.
Oh yeah, for sure. It does still kind of remind me of like the sort of joke that was like made early on in like Dragon Ball Z Abridged, where the value of Raditz after he's introduced and killed off is like diminished even more when they highlight the fact that the Cybermen's, like one Cyberman's power is equal to Raditz. And that he basically no longer becomes an actual Saiyan, he becomes a unit of power measurement.
How many Raditzes is this one?
Yeah, that's basically what comes to my mind whenever I think about the Resetsus. It's no longer the person, it's a level of power within the clan. Though I guess the same also applies to the Onryokis in Neo, which is a similar situation to Resetsu, where it's your first like major yokai boss in that game, and then you proceed to fight him again multiple times. But I guess but in the case of an Onryoki, it makes more sense because, like, you know, there are specific like yokai types, obviously. So it would make more sense that there would be like a whole race of them. Even if it does end up making things look more like it's padding the game out. But whatever, Neo is fun to play, so I don't give a shit. It's like, oh, it's Onryoki again for like the 8th time? Cool. Can I still whip his ass in 30 seconds like always? Yes? Awesome.
That's the beauty of it.
I like how much easier it is to do the Izuna drop with the staff without having to do a launcher beforehand, because the airborne attacks that you do with it, like, basically creates like a vortex effect, like the way it's spinning is like it's almost like a mid-air launcher in and of itself. It'll just pull enemies to you no matter what if you're positioned right. Same actually goes for the Falcon's talons, but you have to be you still have to be airborne, but much closer to the ground for it to even connect.
Are the tutorials just telling you like how to do things? Like,
Basically.
Okay, so if you've already played through the game, you do have the ability to do these like on your first run.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, all the core moves that you know Ryu Hayabusa is able to do are like done out the gate. I mean like it's already like a godsend that this game knows to have you start with the guillotine throw and counterattacks and the flying swallow. Because you know those were very key in Ninja Gaiden 1, but you started with none of those. Yep, you saw the ultimate technique bow in action. It just makes dudes explode.
Wow.
Such power.
This is a very, very juicy game, and I'm so very happy about that.
It really is. There are parts of this where you look at it and you realize that Itagaki was not kidding when he said he wanted to make the ultimate Ninja Gaiden game. Like in his mind, basically the final game of the series, which is, you know, which reminded me always a lot of how when Super Smash Bros. Brawl was coming out, how Sakurai talked about how he designed it as if it were the last game, which explains why it's chock full of so much content and extra bullshit. Like Itagaki took a lot of that same principle of just taking what worked in Ninja Gaiden in the original and going, okay, how much can we amplify everything? All of it? Yes.
Crank everything up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Put Rachel back in, kinda.
Yeah. Although Rachel's not in this version. I mean, yeah, because
Well,
we got Sonya, which I'll admit for, like, even though she does not get as well utilized as I think she should for a female character, she gets way more, I'd say, more fun moments for me than Rachel did.
she's more useful.
Yeah, there's at least more of an implication as you see going along in the game that Sonya is actually helping Ryu get to the places that he needs to and helping him at times. Even though like this game, it doesn't do any of the stuff that like games on the 360 or PS3 even pioneered, which was this sort of blending of like scripted cutscene like moments in actual gameplay. Like this still feels very much like kind of an older school kind of game in that respect, where the gameplay and cinematics are hard separate things. You're not gonna be getting walk and talk sequences or something that ruins the pace like you do in other cinematic scripted action games. Which is a hard shame that Ninja Gaiden 3 decided to shoehorn that shit in. Fucking bastards.
I mean, in a game like this that's all about action, it's probably better to keep the cutscenes very clearly separate.
Yeah.
So that way it's not like a long extended plot dump, at which point you set the controller down and then all of a sudden, oh wait, I'm getting murdered.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're in a Resident Evil 4 moment where you're eating dinner during the Krauser versus Leon knife fight and going, what the fuck? This is bullshit. I died. Luckily for me, by the time I got to RE4 and that stuff, the stuff about like the QTEs was already like made known to me that I was like prepared to never put that controller down. Also, that knife fight's fucking awesome anyway.
It is. Tried that game on professional. I forget how many times I went through it. That knife fight is extremely hard on professional.
Yeah, just the timing's way harder.
Yeah, you have so little time to mash those buttons. Does this have QTs? I guess I'll find out eventually.
No. Ninja Gaiden 2 does not have QTEs. The closest that you could say it does is the obliteration techniques, which are more like finishers, and they don't have obvious button prompts.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, as I said in the first video, it's more equivalent to Nero's Buster in Devil May Cry 4. Yeah, it's just a single-purpose mechanic that interacts with every enemy and is very smooth and fits the flow of the game. So we're getting near the end of this chapter, and getting to, I'd say, one of the greatest additions made to Ninja Gaiden 2, which is something that the first game was noticeably lacking, and other action games have, especially Capcom and Platinum games, have known to include, and you'll see why after this cutscene and loading screen.
And thus the sun sets on the Dragon Ninja bloodline. Damn you! The demon statue is ours. This statue is the talisman of Mount Fuji.
Now the sacred peak erupts.
The gates of the underworld are open.
The fiends are unleashed.
Father!
You must be Genshin.
And you must be Jill Hayabusa's little cub. It is said that a dragon ninja would die to protect the demon statue. You seem eager to fulfill your duty. Now, Elizabeth, you must keep your word.
Stop!
Your death will atone for generations of iniquities. The bloodline of the Dragon Ninja ends here.
So Dante has Virgil, Bayonetta has Jean, Jean from God Hand has Azel the Devil Hand. Ryu now has his proper rival boss fight, and it is Genshin of the Black Spider Clan.
I was wondering what you were saying Ninja Gaiden was missing. Because
Yeah.
the only thing I could think of the other games had was amazing boss fights. This had pretty good boss fights too, so...
Yeah. And like you're
But yeah.
seeing a bunch of Genshin's moves, and some of them are quite comparable to what we've got. I mean, he even has his own Flying Swallow, as well as moves that, if you pay close attention, are modeled after the attacks that the Black Spider Clan have. You know, the different kind of claw and sword swipes, like that spinning cartwheel in particular. He's a stiff challenge, although like this particular arena that you fight him in is certainly more constrained just because of how on fire everything is, and there's the wreckage in the middle. But he does, you know, it's definitely a Mirai-esque kind of fight where you are definitely encouraged to fight him in a particular way. You know, even though you have the Flying Swallow, he'll always negate it in some way, either like by dodging or, you know, doing a Flying Swallow himself and just shutting you down immediately. So now you're going to see what the Lives of the Thousand Gods are actually useful for in this game, and that is as an extra healing item during boss fights. Completely refills your health. It is damn useful. And outside of that, not much else really to the fight. I mean, it's fun to play, but it's definitely a case of, you know, watch his attacks and get him during the recovery.
Kind of like Mirai was in the first game.
Pretty much. And it's not gonna be. This won't be the only time we fight him. There's more to come in the future.
Already dead. Follow the woman. You must retrieve the statue. Go now.
I'm amazed Joe has still enough stamina in him to make it back up to that room and continue his fight.
Ninja does not care for your petty things like stamina and physical limitations.
Yep. Chapter 2 is done now. We'll be heading back to this place in Sigma 2, which, again, like everything else, has plenty of changes to see.
Yay. More Ninja Gaiden.